Welcome to the Bowmore Blair Castle International Horse Trials, held here in the Perthshire seat of the Dukes and Earls of Atholl, amid some of the most beautiful scenery Scotland has to offer. Before the competition got underway, a press conference was held to announce that from next year this will be a 3-star event. Jane Holderness-Rodham has more details.
Yes, well, it's a very exciting sort of upgrading of the event, which follows a complete review we've done of the whole sport, taking in the international picture as well, and trying to get a logical progression for the riders to bring on horses through all the stages. It's very special to have an event up here at such a prestigious location, but also it does spread it round geographically, because for a long time there hasn't been anything north of Bramham at 3-star level, which is a long way away down in Yorkshire. We'll start and see how the 3-star develops. I'm sure we'll get all the top riders here very quickly, but also with the new crossing that comes in at Aberdeen, I think it will allow the foreigners from Scandinavia particularly and abroad to come over here much more easily. So I think we'll get very quickly a very international event.
Well, while the dressage carries on in the main arena, the rest of Blair's attention turns to a real celebration of the Scottish horse, with one of the largest Highland pony shows in the Highlands of Scotland.
Super rhythm, kept an even pace, showed good balance, jumped nicely through sort of some of the trickier fillers, and had a real will to please. And he's the type, I was a little bit smaller, I'd want to go on him myself. So I was pleased with him from the start.
About 8 years ago when we started off this show up here, I felt that people ought to realise what Highland ponies used to do. It was all to do with the work they did in the farms. They did everything, because horsepower was horsepower. And today, so not only that, we're right in the centre of the grouse and the stalking areas in Scotland, and here in Perthshire and Blair Castle. And I was very keen that people should see that. So we have this class now with all the different things like deer saddles, panniers, these are big wicker baskets, they put the drink in, taking him out, and the drink's finished so the grouse come back in. Then we had ponies at the pool, harrows, things of that sort. In the old days, when we used to breed the Highland ponies, there were a lot bred in this area especially. It was a good thing to let the foal run with the mare, because it learnt about the hill, where to put its feet. It was a very usual procedure in the old days. And here we have this mare and foal doing this duty.
And in the outer arenas, the attention turns to the elegance of the working hunter horses, and one of the earliest Blair champions to be crowned was the NFU Mutual Working Hunter final champion, Stephanie Duff, riding Forest Ridge. Well, the competitors in the CCI turning their thoughts very much towards those 60 by 20 metres of the dressage arena. Well, with us first in there is Erica Watson and Tango Romeo, who will be our eventual leaders after the first day of dressage on 48 penalties, and it's easy to see why this lovely forward and flowing test really impressing the panel of 3 judges from the FEI, Lord Patrick Carew from Ireland, joined by Jane Tolley and Jane Whiteley. Dressage is very much the basis of all equestrian sports, and a horse with good flat work can easily go on and impress in every other sphere. And some of our top horses here in the dressage arena will be the ones that go off and end up jumping good rounds cross country and good rounds show jumping. Erica, they're very happy indeed with Tango Romeo's test, giving her that first day lead on 48 penalties and down to 3rd by the end of the 2 days of dressage. Well, joining us to give some expert commentary on one of the tests is Ian Stark, one of Scotland and Great Britain's top international riders.
We've now got Lucy Wiegersma on the young mare Friday morning, and Lucy we expect quite good results from. And the fascinating thing about this horse is that both parents, the mother Friday Fox and the father of this horse Matinee, were both evented by the owner's daughter Rachel Hunt a few years ago. So this is surely bred for eventing. It certainly looks quite impressive as it starts its test. Very good trot. Slightly disappointing in its medium trot. It was, didn't cover quite as much ground as one would hope. When you look at its working trot, it's very correct in its outline. We're going into the turn on the haunches. Perhaps slightly big the steps with its back legs, but a very even walk. Quite a nice movement. And the bend and the angle looks a little greater this way. It looks as though the horse finds it easier. Very good extended walk, covering lots of ground. The good thing when you watch some of these experienced riders is that they make it all look effortless. They look as though they're doing nothing. And the horses are very obedient. It looks very straight on the centre line. You can see it covering, going straight down the muddy track. And onto Travers left, we'll get a good view of this one. Oops. Slight wobble, but then got into better movement. Nearly too much angle and not quite enough bend round the rider's leg. The horse's head was looking out a little bit. It could have been looking down the track better. But looked very supple in the way that it was crossing over well. And a much better attempt at the medium trot. With the amount of lift this horse has got, it'll eventually produce a very, very good medium trot, but she's still quite young, so that's something that can be worked on. It's generally felt that the trot of a horse is something that improves throughout their career. If they have a good walk and canter, then it stays with them, but the trot is something you can work on and improve that as they go on. So we're coming towards this simple change across the centre line. Quite obedient, did one trot step, but it was quite smooth, should get quite a nice mark. And then we're on to this 5-loop serpentine. It's movements like this that you test the suppleness of the horse, and that's what's going to help the horse on a cross-country course to make sure they're supple and they're obedient and they're listening to the rider. So all these movements that we're expecting the horse to do in the dressage test is going to, the better they can do them, the better they're going to, or the easier they're going to be to ride cross-country. Very obedient into walk and back into canter. I like that a lot. Very nice. It's got all the makings of doing a really impressive test.
Well, there were 2 full days of dressage here at Blair for our judges, with just over 100 starters riding this new 2-star test. Well, the standings after dressage, the leader was Grove Dukas, ridden by Terry Boone on 43.4, second Ruth Friend and Miss Champampala, 44.21, Erica Watson and Tanga Romeo third on 48 penalties, Lucy Vigersman Friday morning fourth, Lawrence Hunt and Parkfield's Lion King taking up fifth, and Lisa Maynard and Sky Sport rounding out our top 6. Well, visiting us on behalf of the Children's Hospice Association for Scotland, Blair's charity this year, was Taggart's James McPherson.
I had done maybe, I think, 7 or 8 years worth of Taggart before Morag and Agnes asked me to become involved with Chaz. Because I had 3 kids of my own, I found it very difficult to give some time to a lot of charities, but Morag was at Chaz was very, very persuasive, and Jacqueline and I went up to Rachel House, and that was it. Because if you go to Rachel House, she'll always back Chaz. I'll turn up and attract people. That's what I do, and hopefully persuade them to dig into their pockets. I usually am involved in their kind of the balls and stuff. And what I do is I work the tables and try and chat people out of money, you know. It's a bit like being an actor, really.
Well, Thursday night at the Castle is always the traditional Scottish Reels night. There's dashing white sergeants, gay Gordons and strip the willows aplenty for all of our competitors.
From the best of Scottish tradition, after the break, it's back to the present and the cross-country. But to take us there, some more pipes. Welcome back. Before we get into the cross-country action, a few of the riders are going to talk us through some of the more difficult fences.
This is our first technical question of the course. We've just popped into the dark over a big sawmill, quite a big wide fence. We've cantered along here to 2 logs on 2 stride distance. It's quite a nice log to ride at. We can keep moving forwards to it to take the distance in here, which is 11 yards, with a slight bank up the hill. They land, take a stride here, up, to take off here. If they have a problem at this element, they can go back down the bank, take canter, come round the side and pop the arm here, out and over your next fence.
Ian Stark not riding at Blair this year, but we caught up with him talking his head lad, Robert Luke, through the House of Burr Splash.
The main thing about approaching the water is that from the previous fence you want to use this turn to get the horse set up and then really attack, because they're going to come round here, there'll be a lot of people and they're going to be a lot to look at. And although this isn't a very big fence, you have to be pretty strong in. The alternative is to come along and jump in the left here over the rails, out of the water, then nice turn back along the bank there and jump by the white flag over the rails. Then you've got to turn back into the water and jump the red rails at the D part. You're away for a week. So hopefully, unless you have a problem on the course, then the straight way is the answer. Okay. It's deeper than I expected. Do you want to walk it? So you're 2 for the landing. And then that would be your 4 strides to there. Okay. And then up onto the bank. And although it walks a nice 4 strides, the water will drag their feet. So you have to be riding quite strongly through the water. And then, as I say, if they make a mistake onto the bank, if they trip onto the bank, you can turn left quickly and jump the alternative rails. Okay. But if they just jump up in a little bit of a fumble, you just have to keep riding strongly to get to the way out. You have to make sure that even if they hesitate, it's a tiny log, you keep kicking, because they can jump it from nothing. Yeah. And then just ride straight to the arrowhead on the way out. Right. Maybe just get you to walk the second water again. Okay, just walk that. 3. And again, it's a perfect 4 strides from the jump in to the jetty. Yeah. But don't forget about the drag of the water. Yeah. They may have landed a bit steep off that step, so just keep attacking. And you know, it's pretty narrow, but as long as you keep riding straight and then ride away on the way out. Yep. Good.
This will be one of the more difficult questions on the course. It's getting towards the end of the cross country, so the horses are getting a little bit tired, and we've run down the hill. And then we come to this quite serious question where we have to then sit the horses up on their hocks, ready to take these 2 big steps up and then 1 big stride to the hanging log. Like I say, because it's getting towards the end of the course, we need to sort of help the horses a little bit so that they don't get too tired and they're able to maintain the impulsion to jump up these 2 big steps. If you want to take the alternative, there's the 1-star fence to the left, and then you go around the corner and take the sort of longer route. But having come up these 2 steps, then we need to create all the impulsion for this 1 big stride and then over the hanging log. And again, if you come up the step and have a problem, then you can nip round and jump the sort of ski jump to take the longer route. Hopefully, having negotiated all of this, we've then got the water fence around the corner.
So we've successfully negotiated the steps, and here's the second of the water jumps, a fence that will be preying on the mind of a lot of riders as they go to sleep tonight. It's big, it's bold, and it's certainly not for the faint-hearted. You've got a big hanging log here, 2 strides down the slope, over another hanging log into the water. It's really important getting towards the end of the course that the horses are balanced and still thinking forward on the approach. So it's a case of getting the right mix between forward impulsion and balance. Hopefully we'll have a good clean jump over this rail, land in balance about here, take 2 strides, 1, 2, a nice bold jump out into the water. Really important again to remember to stick out your landing gear when you land. because they can sometimes stumble in the water on the landing side.
Well, welcome to our coverage of the cross-country here at Blair Castle for 2002. The course today, designed by Ronald Alexander, there are 25 fences for them to take on, 5,055 metres to give an optimum time of 9 minutes and 16 seconds. Well, the first horse we see out onto the cross-country will be Spring Savannah, ridden by Jason Ferguson, coming to us on a penalty total thus far of 68.21 after the dressage. Just setting himself up in the start box there for the cross-country and heading away towards the first fence on the course, the Bowmore Barrels. Jason and Spring Savannah have a lot resting on their shoulders as they need to go out and prove this course for the competitors which will follow them, and they'll be all avidly watching his progress as he takes on now the fifth on the course, the Chaz Road Crossing. One of the first real tests on the course, as our riders earlier on told us as they walked and talked for us. But taking that on very nicely there, Jason Ferguson and Spring Savannah. Well, this is a very interesting rider now. This is Terry Boone. Goes out with his first ride of the day. The Irish gunner, again, are just about to take on the first on the course, those Bowmore Barrels. And away he goes. 24 fences now still standing between him and home. Here we have Charlotte Reeder in Comical Spirit, roughly halfway around the course as she takes on the Stirlingshire Saddlery ski jump and down the hill, just fighting a wee bit for control there as she comes to round the corner and take on the Ruined Temple. And taking that on the straight route there, and nicely done. Obviously just all coming back together for them there. This now again is Terry Boone. You can see the weather slightly against us here at Blair as he takes on the Bowmore Stumps at fence 7. Away he goes from there now to the Black Houses. Well, Polly Jackson talked us through this Chaz Road crossing earlier on, and here she is taking it with 2 for joy. An absolutely copybook for her as she heads now to the zigzag. Spring Savannah with us again, our trailblazer, Jason Ferguson, taking on this feature fence of the course, the Brewer Water Splash. 4 jumping efforts for them as they have to pop in and out of the water twice and away over the footbridge. That's really nicely done there from our first competitor of the day. Up at the top of the course, Terry Boone and the Irish gunner take on the Stirlingshire Saddlery ski jump and just fighting a wee bit for control. It's a very steep hill there and they just need to bring the horses back under control for this, which is a very technical fence, the Ruined Temple. Terry going to take on the straight route, bounces in and out, very easy for him as he goes on now to the Wellingtonian Avenue. Starting out on the course now is Hackney and Ken Spencer, away and over those Bowmore Barrels at the first fence. And just rounding the corner here, down by the stables. Often difficult to get the horses to move away from the stables as he jumps the stone trap at 2 and goes now from there past the lorry park to the Stag's Heads. Well, just about to take on the feature fence at the top of the course, jumping the fan which leads into it and just taking a wee bit of a stumble before he goes to the House of Brewer Water Splash is Terry Boone with the Irish gunner, dropping down into that first water and things going slightly awry as Terry's reins just slip through his fingers. But he's just keeping riding and riding as much as he can through his seat and legs. A little bit of a stumble over the footbridge on the way out, but it pays off for him. Well, Spring Savannah still going on the course through the Bowmore logo and coming now to the steps. He can feel the end inside. He's about 4 fences from home now as he pops up this, the direct route. That's probably one of the best we're going to see today. Really made that look easy towards the end of the course. Up at the House of Brewer Water Splash and setting himself up early for the long route. We wonder if this one's, and it probably is, a little bit tired towards this halfway point of the course. This is John Paul Sheffield with I Wonder, making the way, wending the way as it were around the long route and just almost tripping over that third element. And it looks like I Wonder probably gotten away from JP here a bit. He's actually past the line of the 4th element of the fence and will need to come back now and represent there. So that's going to pick him up some penalties, not just on the clock, but also jumping penalties for passing the line of the fence. 20 penalties it will be for a technical refusal, and I Wonder just not really interested in going on any further, and it looks like JP is probably going to call it a day at that. Charlotte Reeder and Comical Spirit now towards the end of the course as they take on the Malcolm's Locken here down in the home at Blair. The Blair course starting off in this nice flat area down by the stables, but wending its way up into the hills of this great gaming estate. Charlotte Reeder taking on the direct route there, a wee bit sticky into the water, but no problems as they head away from it now. Hackney at the top of the course and Ken Spencer. Away from the Stirlingshire Saddlery ski jump they go down now to the Ruined Temple. This on the furthest point away from home on the course for these competitors. It's all back towards home from here as they go on towards the Wellingtonian Avenue. Well, one down heading towards home is Terry Boone and the Irish gunner coming towards Malcolm's Locken. After this they have just 4 more fences to take on. Just about to pop in over the first element there, just picking up nicely, and over the second as well. He really saw a good one there as he heads on towards the Grice Butts. Well, the rain came and went for us all day at Blair, but lots of our spectators braved it throughout the day to watch these top competitors, and here's another one of them. Spring Savannah and Jason Ferguson coming towards home. They've jumped the second last and coming towards the Bowmore barrels now, which will also take them safely home, as indeed it sent them out on the course. And this will be not just a happy round for Spring Savannah and Jason, but for all the competitors who will be following them. As I said, they'll be watching and being interested in how he's taken on this Ronald Alexander course. Interesting enough, Jason Ferguson and Spring Savannah closest to the optimum time, picking up just 4.4 time penalties on the day. Hackenden and Ken Spencer you saw there through the Bowmore logo and going now towards the steps. And that's really sad to see. Someone has let their dog off the lead there, and it does just seem to be giving Ken a jaldy as he's going up these steps. Well, it hasn't affected him too much, as he explains himself.
It wasn't outside assistance, it wasn't deliberate anyway, it wasn't planned, but it might have helped the horse get up the steps, give him that little bit of extra kick.
We've had plenty of thrills and spills already, but there's lots more to come, so make sure you rejoin us after this break. Welcome back. Time now to step up another gear and see some of the leading horses and riders going through their paces.
Chris Hunnable first with us on his horse Red Quest. At the early stage of the course, just taking on that Chaz Road crossing at fence 5, another one to take it on straight. Now we're up at the Bowmore Stumps, the 7th on the course, and that's a problem there for Kin Royale and Suzanne Lumguer, and Kin Royale just making good his escape back towards the stables. Down towards the latter end of the course we have Erica Watson and Tango Romeo, this horse lying 3rd after dressage in this 2-star competition, taking on the Grice Butts and heading now to Ronald's Ramp. Well, here we see Linda Olgertson for Sweden with Fair Dob, and Linda, who later withdrew from the competition, the horse having picked up a minor injury, which we see there. All of our competitors considering the welfare of the horses paramount in our sport. Red Quest and Chris Hunnable now at the Bowmore steps, popping up the direct route, and away from that he goes down and enjoying a little bit of a break in the weather there as he heads towards the end of the course. Well, with us now starting their round is Sky Sport and Lisa Maynard, this combination the winners of the 1-star class here at Blair last year, tilting their hat towards 2-star glory this year as they head on towards the Stag's Heads at fence 3. Aerodynamic and David Gatherer just jumped the fan fence, which brings them onto this feature of the course, the House of Brewer water splash. Just at the halfway point, they drop down easily into the first water. Things just getting a little bit ropey reins-wise as they drop into the second. But everything just keeps going forward as they take on and clear the footbridge to complete that fence. More of Sky Sports and Lisa Maynard, this time over the Stirlingshire Saddlery. Oh dear. And just whilst trying to get Sky Sports back under control, he's just thrown his head up and probably hit Lisa in the face there. And well, that's actually pretty strong riding to have taken on that Rune Temple after that. Well, also, while the competitors are on the cross-country, they start off with the roads and tracks and the steeplechase, which get the horses warmed up and tested thoroughly before they take on this cross-country track here at Blair. This is Sky Sports and Lisa Maynard at the House of Brewer water splash. They've just jumped the fan fence, which precedes it, and just a little bit sticky into the first water there. Maybe he just caught a look at it. And again, but popping out and clear, and that's what's going to count. It's not about style in the cross-country. Ian Stark there, who talked us through that splash earlier on, looking after one of his charges in the D-box. And here at the Bowmore logo, David Gatherer again with Aerodynamic. At this stage, they'll all be thinking about home, but you can't give up until you're safely between the flags. There's a lot of questions between here and there, and this Bowmore steps not proving to be one of them for David Gatherer and Aerodynamic. And here, a little bit further on, is Lisa Maynard and Sky Sports over the Grice Butts and heading on towards Ronald's Ramp. She's just 3 fences from home now.
I don't know what my time faults were yet, but the horse won the 1-star here last year, so I've come here with a bit of, it's a bit anxious. But I've had a few whoopsies on him this year because he's been a bit brave. But he was just fantastic. He was clear, he was straight everywhere. I had one hairy moment after fence I don't know which fence, about 12 I think, before the bounce there's a huge drop down, and he jumped so big down it, and then as I went to steady him, he brought his face into and hit me in the net in the face, and I was trying to get to the bounce, but he's very honest, and I've ridden him since he was 5, and I just adore him.
Gilly Reid and the Painter coming towards the last, the Bowmore barrels. They've got 24 fences safely behind them, and they'll be hoping that this one joins those. Indeed it does. All too often we've seen people come a cropper at the last. Up at the Scottish Field Black Houses now, that's about the 8th fence on the course. Caroline Moore and Time for Tea safely jumped this pair of those. And here we see them coming back the way across the Wellingtonian Avenue up from the castle to take on the Athol Estates seat at a big imposing fence, in fact, for these 2-star competitors. Robert Luke and Secret Streak jumping into the House of Brewer water splash now. This we saw him being talked through this earlier by his trainer Ian Stark, and it looks like the advice is paying off thus far and right the way through for him as he safely completes that fence. Well, heading out of the box, lying second after the dressage, is Miss Champampala and Ruth Friend. Ruth, who's had such a great career for a young rider thus far.
Jumping into the first bit, he sort of just backed off, but really pecked on when he landed. So I just sort of had to really pick him up out of the water, and then just had to keep scrubbing and kicking, like Ian and I discussed last when we spoke about walk the course. Like he went well. Just tired towards the end, and he just went through the top of that when we were in, and I sort of got unseated, unfortunately. So I'm bitterly disappointed.
Our Finnish competitor was Jani Lorikanen with Examine, taking on the House of Brewer water splash, which had not been too influential up until this point. We see Examine and Jani Lorikanen just having a parting of the ways, and pleased to say they are both fine after that fall, but it did precede a real stage of problems up there at the Brewer water splash. Ruth Friend now and Miss Champampala through the Bowmore logo and setting themselves up for the steps. Just you can see the power coming forward from Ruth's riding here. Not quite paying off up the steps. She pulls away from the third element and goes on for a slightly longer route, but Miss Champampala just not taking off, and Ruth deciding to call it a day there towards the end of the course. Well, Ireland's Eric Smiley, this great seasoned campaigner for Ireland with Breeze, owned by Dervla Quinn, also the owner of his great horse and top-class horse, Irish Patriot, formerly campaigned by Ireland's Mark Kyle. Coming to the Malcolm's Locken at the end of the course, this horse Breeze, one that Eric's very excited about for the future. Just taking the longer route through the Locken at this stage. Eric hacking home as he goes around the digger and off towards the Grouse Butts. One to watch, winner of the 2-star here at Blair last year, but with a different horse. This is Lucy Vigersma. She rides Friday morning, lying 4th after dressage as she takes on and clears the first. Terry Boone out with his second ride of the day, Grove Dukas taking on the second on the course, the Stone Trap. And up at the House of Brewer water splash we have Anne-Marie Taylor with Sunrise Safari through the first water and just dropping down into the second one, a wee bit sticky. They come on, there's just not any impulsion there really as they take on the footbridge. And there we can see that the footbridge itself has collapsed under the weight of the horse. This is a new way of designing fences, and Irvin Bruce there, the course designer, putting it all back together ready for our next competitor, which will in fact be Lucy Vigersma, taking on the fan fence there and coming towards this House of Brewer water splash. Lucy, who will have been held on the course for a short while as a result of that, and it's difficult to think how they get these horses, which are kept warm and supple as things go on, how they keep them warm and working in during that sort of stop. But it looks to have been fine for Lucy as she goes well through that splash. Terry Boone and Grove Dukas are leaders after dressage, halfway around the course now as he clears the Stirlingshire Saddlery ski jump, and he's coming onto the Rune Temple now, and he's not going to take the direct route, so he's looking here to avoid jumping penalties, but will penalise himself on the clock. Just really coming right back to a halt there so he can make a sharp turn as he goes on now towards the next on the course. Lucy Vigersma Friday morning with us here at the Bowmore steps, popping up the 2 steps and out over the 3rd fence. Another one taking it on the direct route. That fence quite influential later on in the day as well, and this is why. Look at the rain pelting down there as Lucy Vigersma comes onto the next fence after those Bowmore steps, the Malcolm Locken. This fence, Lucy talked us through how she's going to jump it. Let's see if she follows her own advice. She does. Straight through it and on into the water, just gathering up her knitting again as she heads on towards the grouse butts. Well, our overnight leader, Terry Boone and Grove Dukas. Terry is a little bit of an advantage, having already ridden around this course once today. Dropping down into the water, just keeping the pressure on. He was a bit long and low on his first horse through this water. And just a little bit of hesitation, but he pushed on, so no penalties for that. And pops out over the footbridge at the far end as well.
She was going beautifully, and then we got held just before, I think it was fence 10, and we got held for about 10 minutes, which is always a bit of a mixed blessing. I was doing quite well on my minute markers up till then, so you slightly lose track of where you are time-wise, because obviously your watch keeps running. On the other hand, it does give them a chance just to catch a little bit of breath back, so it's a double-edged sword really. But she got going really well again and jumped brilliantly. I had a couple of hairy moments, but that's always part of the course on around a 3-day track.
Terry Boone and Grove Dukas a little bit further around the course now, taking on the Bowmore logo and going around this right-handed bend to take on the Bowmore steps. Watching Terry talked us up the direct route over to the right of your screen at the moment. But it's straight away obvious that he's going to take on the longer route, simpler fences hopefully, but it looks there like his hind legs just slipped slightly from under him, and Terry, and indeed probably Grove Dukas more importantly, not prepared to commit themselves to another jump after that. So it looks like they're going to call it a day, and I think, there the hand goes up.
He was going really well. He was jumping all the fences well, and he went through the first water really good. Very pleased with that. And then he was just sort of getting tired, with it being so muddy. And I think if it wasn't for the 2 steps up, I actually went the long way there, the 1 step and then to the rail. But I think if it wasn't for that actual fence, I probably could have got him home sort of quite happily.
Well, the leaderboard after cross-country, Lucy Vigersma Friday morning heading it up on 58.61. Lisa Maynard and Sky Sports second, 62.41 for them. Gilly Reid and the Painter third on 65.6. Linda Olgertson and Fair Dobbin fourth. Spring Savannah and Jason Ferguson fifth. And the Irish Gunner and Terry Boone sixth. Well, the sponsors here, Bowmore, took the opportunity to use the hereditary home of the Earls and Dukes of Atholl, and indeed his private army, the Atholl Highlanders, for a reception on the Saturday night of our horse trials. As usual at a Highland feast, the haggis was piped in and given the traditional address by Mr. Jim McCall.
Fair fa your honest, sonsy face, great chieftain of the puddin' race, abin them all ye tak your place, pinch, tripe or therm. Weel are ye worthy of a grace as lang's my earn. Ladies and gentlemen, some misguided Scots amongst you will suggest that you pour your dram over the haggis. I suggest to you that will spoil both products. Let us now raise our glasses and drink to the haggis.
I'll sit back now and enjoy some scenes from the other great attraction here at Blair, the Country Fair.
Just as the event has grown here at Blair, so has the Country Fair. There've been all manner of displays in this arena over the past 3 days. Make sure you stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. Time now for the final action from the Bowmore Blair Castle International Horse Trials and the climax of the competition, the show jumping.
third day of competition here at Blair, the show jumping test for these two-star competitors. Often scorned by their show jumping compatriots, this not truly a test of jumping, more a test of recovery and continued usage of the horses. So first competitor that we see, Chris Hunnable with Red Quest. The penalties in the 3-day eventing show jumping: 4 penalties for a knockdown, 4 penalties also for a refusal, and 8 for a fall. And they're also watching the clock, just as they are on the cross-country course all the time, hoping not to pick up any time penalties as well. So this is looking pretty good thus far for Red Quest and Chris Hunnable. Really is amazing to think, looking at the collection he's displaying now, that they were galloping cross-country yesterday. A wide variety of fences for them to take on as well. Some more naturally coloured, others the more traditional coloured show jumps, narrow fences, a double in this final combination, which is sometimes a real test for them. But that's a nice clear there for Chris Hunnable and Red Quest. So that will keep the pressure on the competitors lying above them at the moment as we go on with Terry Boone and the Irish gunner over the first they go. Terry, interestingly enough, riding in a hackamore, a bitless bridle. Sometimes after the exertions yesterday, the horse's mouth is a little bit tender, and a great many eventers now thinking more and more of using a hackamore on the third day, just to save the horses but still be able to exert a good amount of control in the show jumping arena. Nicely down that line there for Terry. Well, just turning in towards the 7th on this show jumping track. Terry and the Irish gunner lying 5th after the first 2 days of competition on 73.2 penalties. A clear here would obviously keep the pressure on, most particularly on Lucy Vigersma, our overnight leader. And that just advertising hoarding there, just not being exactly in the right place for Terry's original plan, but it's okay. Sometimes something like that, where you have to radically alter the plan, as it were, can throw you right off style, but not so for the Irish gunner and Terry Boone. Another one home on a nice clear.
Well, pressure's on, a very good run there by Terry Boone, leading him with
He stays on his overnight total of 73.2 penalties. As into the arena comes Jason Ferguson and Spring Savannah over the first. Lying 4th overnight this combination. 72.61 penalties after the dressage and the cross country for them. And this horse really bouncing along. It's a good working rhythm he's built up here to jump out of. He's looking to change his leading leg as he comes around this corner. Very important that they do come around on the correct lead, as it just gives a lot more balance to the horse. Often if you do see faults in the show jumping arena, it's often due to basically bad flat work. As into the 7th. Spring Savannah now. Just as in the cross country, whilst you may think you're almost home, anything can happen in the last few fences. Jason not really taking any prisoners either, really keeping up against the clock, pushing Spring Savannah along, but he jumps out of it. Obviously they're a good combination together, and they know that each other's limitations and abilities, but it just doesn't pay off there. So that's 1 down for 4 penalties to add. That'll push him up to a score of 76.61. Down the final line, they all stay standing, so that will be his completion total here at Blair, 76.61, dropping him below Chris Hunnable. Now in the arena, lying 3rd overnight on 65.6 penalties, Gilly Reid and the Painter over that first, and this one just taking the whole affair a lot more steadily than we saw Spring Savannah do. It's one would say almost pedestrian coming around, but again, it's all to do with the combination of horse and rider and what they know each other can achieve. 1 down there, first of all, for 4 penalties. This long line of 4 fences on a related distance brings them to the 7th. Just fighting for control there a wee bit. The painter looking to go on a little bit stronger. So those 4 penalties picked up there. We'll drop them down. Just as they go past me there, I can see that the saddle's starting to slip back, which means that the girth will almost become a bucking strap, and indeed it does, right there. The painter not happy at all about what's going on his back. But well done there, just absolutely getting them together and pushing them down that final line. 2 down, but good to get them going on after that. So a total of 24 penalties to add from the show jumping arena for Gilly Reid and the painter. So that pushes them well down the order, in fact to 8th place. Jumping now over the first, lying second overnight, Sky Sport and Lisa Maynard. As I said, winners here in the 1-star last year. They'll be wondering if they can capitalise on that success in the 2-star this year. They have 1 fence in hand over Terry Boone, who's now lying 3rd, but if they hope to hang on to 2nd, or indeed keep the pressure on our overnight leader Lucy Vigersma, they'll have to go clear. Coming down this line now, the double in the middle and then the related distance onto this parallel, and that goes down. So that's 4 penalties. If she stays on 4, she can stay in 2nd, but it just gives Lucy Vigersma all the more breathing room now. Lisa won't give up at this stage, of course, because whilst she's holding on to 2nd, Lucy could have a cricket score and drop right out. It's still all very much to play for in this 2-star class. Lucy just swinging out. She'd obviously had a look at what happened to Terry earlier at that advertising hoarding and just swinging out nicely around it to take on the style fence and up towards the final combination here. 1, 2, 3, easily done. So just the 4 to add for Lisa. She'll stay in 2nd or better on 66.41 penalties. Well, now into the arena comes our overnight leader, Lucy Vigersma, and Friday morning, leaders after the speed and endurance yesterday on 58.61 penalties. Now on that score, she has 2 fences in hand over Lisa Maynard. Lucy, who's aiming for something that's never been performed before, which would be back-to-back 2-star victories here at Blair, having won last year in this big class here at the Bowmore Blair Castle Horse Trials, is steadying back to a trot there to get everything collected. It all counts on this round as she jumps the 7th. The pressure that must be on these final few competitors coming into the arenas. They know how they stand overnight. They know what any pulls down will cost them or earn them, one way or another. So Lucy just guiding Friday morning around this course, just trying to keep up on the time, but at the same time stay steady enough. And they approach the final line now. This combination parallel in the middle, out the far end, and she needed no fences in hand. There she is, our 2002 CCI 2-star winner at Blair, Lucy Vigersma, and Friday morning. Well, to the victor the spoils, and that left Lucy Vigersma and Friday morning on 58.61 penalties. 2nd, Lisa Maynard and Sky Sport on 66.41. 3rd on 73.2, Terry Boone and the Irish Gunner. 4th on 73.4, Chris Hannibal and Red Quest. 5th, Jason Ferguson and Spring Savannah on 76.61. And rounding out the top 6 on 82.01 penalties, Hakkinen and Ken Spencer. Lucy Vigersma steps forward to collect her prizes from Kenny Mackay of the sponsors Morrison Bowmore.
Lucy Vigersma, the first person to win back-to-back Blair Horse Trials. Obvious question, what does it feel like?
Oh, just as good as it did last year. Better actually, because I didn't think I'd pull it off again, but no, Permagrin. We had a little bit of a discrepancy with the scores yesterday, so I was actually in overnight second, but I spoke to the ground jury this morning because I was held on the cross-country course. There was a bit of a mix-up with my time and they took away some of my time penalties, so I just snuck ahead. Show jumping, I was a bit worried about it. She's been good at one-day events, but she did Punchestown 2-star this spring, and she had a few fences down there, so I was quite anxious going into the show jumping, but she pulled out all the stops and gave everything feet. I couldn't have asked for any more.
Special congratulations on our back-to-back winner!
Well, Lucy absolutely revelling in it, and why not? Well, she took the individual victory. The team victory went to the home nation, Scotland. Suzanne Lumgare, David Gatherer, Peter Laidlaw and Richard Telford making up our winning Scottish team. Well, the new director here at Blair is Sarah Phillips, and after a busy event, Leslie Graham caught up with her.
Sarah, first year as director, now, just after 5 o'clock, the time to heave a sigh of relief.
Yes, just about. There's still a few other things going on at the moment, but no, very relieved. It's all gone really well. Tremendous team effort. Fantastic weather today, so couldn't be happier.
Where do you start to get an event like this to work like clockwork on the day?
There's an awful lot of letter writing and correspondence and meetings and just sort of getting everybody in place from sort of the toilets right through to the course designer, getting the timber here. You know, Ronald does a super job, but it's really a logistics exercise, really. We've had it confirmed now for the last couple of weeks, but next year will be a 3-star. It'll be the first 3-star ever in Scotland, and it's really what everybody aspires to. So we're really looking forward to it, and preparations will start tomorrow.
Well, that's the end of our coverage here from Blair Castle in Perthshire in the Highlands of Scotland. Do please join us again next year when we'll be bringing you action from the new 3-star class. But for the moment, from Ian Stark, Leslie Graham and myself, John Kyle, goodbye for now.